A Plaguelands Media production.
Hey everyone, this is Hugh from Plaguelands Media, and today I'm not bringing you a book look, although that is pretty much what I'm just going to call this episode as part of that ongoing series. But I wanted to bring you a look at a run of the comic book, The Uncanny X-Men, namely the run by Kieron Gillen. Volumes 1 and Volume 2 of his run on Uncanny X-Men. Those of you that know me know I'm a huge X-Men fan. The 90s animated series was some of the greatest cartoons out there, mainly because they adapted a lot of the storylines into like animation form. Was a huge fan of the first X-Men film. I remember going and seeing it 3 times on opening day. I went and saw X2 with my good friend Ian and his brother. It was a magnificent film. That opening sequence with Nightcrawler is just fantastic. I did enjoy X-Men The Last Stand. You can poo-poo that however you want. It wasn't a great film, but we had Kelsey Grammer as Beast. That was pretty cool. And then, of course, X-Men First Class, which I thought was going to be shit and wasn't. And then you had Days of Future Past, possibly my all-time favorite X-Men story ever printed. Apocalypse, fantastic villain, but he looked too much like Ivan Ooze from the Power Rangers movie. Anyway, I'm not talking about the films. I just want you to know that I'm a fucking X-Men fan. Absolutely love the franchise. And I will be reviewing more of the graphic novel series. I have a lot of the older story arcs like Mutant Massacre, Fatal Attractions, Age of Apocalypse, and of course Onslaught. I will be talking about those later, but today I just want to talk about Kieron Gillen's run on Uncanny X-Men. So let's get straight into it with another episode of So this is the 2-volume complete collection of Kieron Gillen's run on the Uncanny X-Men. Now, I used to be a huge X-Men fan back in the day. Kind of grew out of it a little bit in the 90s after the Age of Apocalypse storyline. But I was kind of looking back over my X-Men graphic novels. You don't like the X-Men, Rio? What, you like Spider-Man? Yeah, that shut him up. I was looking back over my X-Men graphic novels and realized that I didn't really have any stories that were involving my 2 favorite villains of all time, namely Juggernaut and Mr. Sinister. So I did a little bit of research, and someone said that Kieron Gillen's run has one of the best Mr. Sinister stories out there, and also the tie-in to the Fear Itself miniseries features the Juggernaut. So I figured, why not? So let's have a look and see what we kind of get. I'll just move that one off camera. So the first kind of storyline you get is this kind of Sword 4-issue miniseries. Sword is like the space version of S.H.I.E.L.D., where they kind of guard against extraterrestrials. This is Agent Brand. She's like the main Sword chick, and Beast is now working for Sword because Beast and Agent Brand are in a relationship. The art is good. The story itself is pretty lackluster. Mainly just because it involves like Henry Gyrick and all of that. So not too much to say. Not too much to say here. It's just aliens come. They have to kind of stop them. It's just your typical kind of mini-series. Doesn't really bring anything new to the board, but it's a fun story. I did enjoy it. And then we get to the actual series. Now, this kind of takes place at a time when there's an island off the coast of San Francisco called Utopia, where mutants kind of all live in harmony. Magneto is now living there. And so this story kind of sets up how people in San Francisco are kind of worried because Magneto is on Utopia and he's got a really bad image. And then these guys plan on setting off bombs, but it's a ruse and there's earthquakes, and Magneto pretty much saves everyone. You also find out that Namor, the King of Atlantis, kind of is affiliated with the X-Men now. There's Magneto saving everyone. And now we get to a story about Kitty Pryde and Colossus. Now, for those of you that don't know, Kitty Pryde, back in the Joss Whedon run, basically phased these aliens called from Breakworld. Shot a giant bullet at the Earth, and Kitty Pryde phased the bullet through the Earth and got trapped inside of it. And when Magneto brought the bullet back, they got Kitty Pryde out, but she can no longer become tangible. She has to remain in her phased state. And this is basically a story where Ord from Breakworld comes back, and Colossus got in a fight back in the Whedon run, got in a fight, ripped his arm off, and now Breakworld has gone to shit, and he just wants to be a refugee on Earth. The Breakworld thing in the Joss Whedon run was pretty lackluster, and there's no difference here. It's just kind of the same boring stuff. I mean, it's an okay story, but it's not a great one. And then Wolverine comes along, and you basically find out that these aliens can basically die and give their life essence to someone else. So Ord's kind of lady sacrifices herself for him, and ultimately he sacrifices himself for her, and then it's kind of like a big love fest, happy ending at the end, and everybody is happy. This story basically revolves around Hope. Hope was the first mutant child born after M-Day, where Scarlet Witch famously said no more mutants and decimated all but 200 mutants on the planet, took away their powers. And Hope gets kidnapped, and Wolverine goes off to rescue her. Hope gets kidnapped by the Crimson Commando, who wants her to basically heal him. And so this is kind of a little bonding moment between Wolverine and Hope makes Wolverine basically promise that if anything happens to her with the Phoenix Force or her powers go out of control, he will basically kill her. Now, her mutant power is that she can mimic the mutant powers of people around her. Now we get to one of the reasons why I purchased these collections, the tie-in to Fear Itself. Now, for those of you that don't know, Fear Itself was an okay mini-series where the Serpent released 5 hammers on Earth, and 5 of the strongest heroes and villains took those hammers and basically became these unstoppable evil forces. Juggernaut got the hammer and became Kurth, the Breaker of Stone. So he is basically headed for San Francisco to destroy it. And the X-Men have all of these plans. Magic, Colossus' sister, is actually imprisoned on Utopia because she tricked the X-Men into helping her recover her soul. And in doing so, she slaughtered a bunch of people, but they do need her help. Namor is constantly trying to get it on with the White Queen. Emma Frost is Cyclops' woman, but, Namor doesn't care. He's the king of Atlantis. And there you have Juggernaut as Kurth, the Breaker of Stone. So the mayor of San Francisco goes to the X-Men, you got to help us. And so they come and they kind of try everything to stop. You get Magneto, you get Colossus, Iceman. There is Hope. Hope gets the powers of all these mutants and tries, but ultimately fails. She burns herself out. This was kind of a really cool story. There's Avalanche, who was a villain from the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants back in the day. Now he just runs a bar in San Francisco, just wants to be left alone. So Emma Frost basically is going to kill Hope, but this is the crux of this story. This is how they ultimately end up defeating Kurth. So those of you that don't know, Juggernaut gets his power from the Crimson Gem of Cyttorak. And so they actually go to see the demon Cyttorak. Magic teleports Kitty Pryde and Colossus there. And basically tells him the Juggernaut is fighting, but not in your name. And Cyttorak is like, yeah, I don't care. He's still smashing stuff. And they're like, no, you don't understand. Like, he's not doing it in your name. He's giving all the glory to someone else. And Cyttorak doesn't like that and takes the power away, the Juggernaut's power away, and is going to give it to someone else. That's Danger. That's the Danger Room made incarnate. He's going to give the power to someone else. And Magic said to Scott, I will take the power of the Crimson Gem of Cyttorak to atone for all the things that I've done wrong. But ultimately, Colossus takes it, and Colossus becomes the new Juggernaut, which is so fucking awesome. And then they have a huge fight. Punchy, punchy, smashy, smashy. Emma kisses Namor, you dirty, dirty beast. And this is where Kitty Pryde breaks up with him because she thinks he's being selfish, basically. And that was the Fear Itself storyline. Moves into X-Men Regenesis. This comes after the X-Men schism where Wolverine doesn't agree with the way Scott is leading Utopia, and so takes a group of mutants and reopens Xavier's school for gifted youngsters, but calls it the Jean Grey School. And this is the first book in the Regenesis storyline, where you're just getting like which mutants go with Wolverine and which mutants stay with Scott. It's interesting, I guess, but ultimately, like, not a lot really happens. And you just get to see like who is on what team. And that is about it. Now we get into the Mr. Sinister storyline. So we have like a reprinted page from X-Men #1, but with new text. And here we have Mr. Sinister, probably my all-time favorite villain out of the X-Men, Nathaniel Essex. And ultimately, Mr. Sinister's plan here is really quite an interesting one. You basically get a glimpse of how he views the X-Men. And then we go to Uncanny X-Men from 2011, #1. And this is where Sinister's plan kind of really takes off. You have a dreaming Celestial. If you've seen the Eternals film, you'll know who the Celestials are. I won't go into it here. And basically Mr. Sinister steals the Celestial's power by stealing its head, and all the power kind of goes a little bit haywire, and so the X-Men are kind of called in, because if they don't stop it, then the Celestials are going to come and destroy the Earth. The White Queen gets her arm blown off, which is pretty cool. Colossus turns into the Juggernaut. So now Colossus has become a much more interesting character, because he's got this evil inside of him that he has to kind of deal with, and he pulls it out when he needs like that extra boost of strength. And Mr. Sinister has basically made a World's Fair where everyone looks and acts like him. So the X-Men go to stop him, while the Celestials kind of are on their way, so they've really got to hurry. And you ultimately find out a little bit about his backstory in these wonderfully painted panels. But you find out that Mr. Sinister has effectively made himself into a new species. So when they kill one off, the consciousness just goes to another one. It's like a hive mind, almost like the phalanx. And you'll know why I said that a little bit later. So they work out how to basically take him down. And they get the Celestial's head back on. Not before Mr. Sinister kind of just leaves. He kills himself, and then they don't know where the other Sinister clones are. And the X-Men basically face down the Celestials, and the Celestials end up leaving. It was a fantastic story arc to cap off Volume 1 of the collection. Volume 2. Volume 2 opens up with one of the best X-Men stories I've ever read. We get this, a look at the phalanx. Now, the phalanx are a race of techno-organic aliens that kind of assimilate everything. And we find out that Mr. Sinister actually captured part of the phalanx and cut the phalanx off from the hive mind, and basically tortures him for years and years and years, until finding out that like there's nothing else to learn. Basically, he works out how to create a hive mind, and then there's nothing left to learn, and just leaves this creature alone in the lab. Eventually coming back after the events of the last story arc, and disposing of the phalanx creature because there is nothing else. This little girl finds the head in the woods, treats it like it's a doll, and the phalanx creature basically wants to assimilate the little girl into the hive mind, not out of maliciousness, but because it believes there's nothing better than having a hive mind state. Discovers that he actually kills the little girl, cannot hear the little girl's voice in his head, and realizes that Mr. Sinister has basically destroyed that part of him that allows him to regrow the hive mind. So he kills the parents, starts to kind of go on a killing spree, and then the X-Men are called in to stop him. They fight. He creates a tower out of himself to send a message to the other phalanx in the universe, please come and get me, and realizes there is no one out there, that he is completely alone, and ultimately sacrifices himself and dies because he can't handle being alone. It's really a very bittersweet ending, and the whole book is told from the perspective of this phalanx creature, which I thought was really, really kind of cool. The next storyline involves basically a nuclear explosion that destroys an entire town, and then a dome kind of appears over it. And when the X-Men go to investigate, they discover that basically it's kind of like a land that time forgot, with strange creatures and whatnot. And ultimately you discover that these creatures called the Apex. There's only 2 of them left, and one of them was misplaced through time. So the one that was misplaced in time basically wants to regrow or revive all of the Apex civilization. But you find out that X-Force had something to do with this, and Psylocke is trying to cover it up because she was supposed to have killed Archangel and didn't, and Magneto says, I'll keep your secret. Here is the Immortal Man, or whatever they call him in here. So they fight. You find out that this creature is a good guy trying to stop his friend. This is a great scene where there's no metal. So Magneto actually uses his helmet to become metal shards to attack the creature. Namor meets an underwater civilization. And Cyclops kind of meets the good guy and learns the plot. This actual place now remains after this issue. It doesn't kind of go away. So there is this kind of sealed off area that has all these like weird aliens and dinosaurs and stuff. This goes on for quite a few issues. It's quite a good story. Namor has sex with this queen shrimp chick, which is a little gross. There he is giving her a kiss. Colossus finds his sister, and ultimately it ends with Magneto telling her he'll keep her secret. So now we have a story about the prison on the Sword facility that holds all the most dangerous alien terrorists, crashes to Earth, and the X-Men and the Avengers have to team up. And so we get a few like team up things, and then this creature unit basically lures Hope away, and you believe that he wants to kill her, to study her, but in actual fact, he just wants to talk to her. And then Colossus asks Scott to put him in jail with his sister because he is a menace. And here we find out that Unit has actual control over Danger. Danger is the X-Men's Danger Room that got sentience and tried to kill everyone, but now she kind of works with them. Okay, so here we're getting kind of more Avengers, X-Men kind of going against each other. This is actually leading up to Avengers versus X-Men. We have Colossus Juggernaut versus Red Hulk underwater, which was kind of cool. Basically, they're trying to take Hope into protective custody because of the Phoenix Force that's kind of headed their way. So we get the X-Men now kind of searching for Hope, fighting like one another, and then the Phoenix Force is headed to Earth. So we get just kind of a lot of what are we going to do when it arrives kind of stuff. For those of you that don't know what the Phoenix Force is, the Phoenix Force is a cosmic entity that basically once possessed Jean Grey, destroys planets. It's a whole big thing. The Dark Phoenix saga. Read the comics. Even watch the movie. I enjoyed it. But ultimately, this doesn't have the Avengers versus X-Men storyline in it. These are just like the kind of off off stories. Now, basically what happened in that was the Phoenix Force found hope, and Tony Stark and Black Panther, I believe, tried to stop it, and in doing so, actually split the Phoenix Force into 5, and so Namor, Cyclops, Emma Frost, Magic, and Colossus all now are the Phoenix Force. They call themselves the Phoenix 5. We get a Mr. Sinister story, which is really cool, just like a little backstory on Mr. Sinister and what he's trying to do. Strange, Unpleasant Land. This was an okay. It was an okay story. Again, it's a kind of a Mr. Sinister, thing, where the Phoenix Force go on the offensive there, and they kind of try to destroy what Mr. Sinister has kind of built up. It's a good tale. Not a huge fan of the Phoenix, the Phoenix 5, but it is what it is. Here you see like the growing relationship between Magneto and Psylocke as well, which is kind of cool. I did like that. Then we have basically you find out that Magic has set up her brother. She wants her brother to feel the way she feels, the guilt and the shame that she feels with what she did. So she basically set up Colossus to take the Juggernaut power, the Crimson Gem of Sidorak. So the Phoenix Force basically leaves the people that have it. I think it leaves Namor first, and then that power that was in Namor gets split between the 4 of them. So as the Phoenix Force kind of leaves one host, it goes into the others and they become more powerful. So ultimately, Scott ends up getting the full Phoenix Force, and at the end of the Avengers versus X-Men storyline, he kills Professor Xavier, and so is arrested and put into custody. And then you kind of have Magic and her brother doing a back and forth. And in the final issue of his run on Uncanny X-Men, he is visited by Mr. Sinister, who kind of mocks him and is like, this was my plan all along. Then you get the Avengers versus X-Men Consequences 5-issue miniseries, which is just the aftermath. Hope is trying to find Cable. You find out that Namor destroyed Wakanda, and Black Panther now considers all mutants enemies, including his own wife. He's married to Storm. Scott is put in prison, and Captain America is trying to work with Wolverine to kind of heal the rift between humans and mutants. So Wolverine visits him in prison. They kind of have a back and forth. Scott is begging Wolverine to kill him, but Wolverine's like, nope. Scott meets another mutant in jail whose powers manifested. Basically, at the end of Avengers versus X-Men, the Phoenix Force is kind of destroyed, but it brings back the mutant gene. So there are more mutants manifest in the world as opposed to the 200. So here, Tony Stark is in, where was it? The mystical city of Kunlun. If you've seen the Iron Fist TV show, or even Doctor Strange, the movie Doctor Strange, you'll know what that place is. Emma Frost is imprisoned. And Magic is basically communicating with Scott in jail. Scott says, don't free me. Tony Stark wants to study the Phoenix Force. Hope meets Namor. They find where Colossus is hiding, and Magneto has kind of gone off on his own again. The new mutant that Scott befriends gets killed, and Wolverine goes to visit Scott and says, listen, I know you didn't kill Charles Xavier on your own. And this is when Scott wants Magneto, Magic, and Danger to break him out of prison. And then they become fugitives from the law. Scott basically decimates the prison and releases every prisoner. And then Hope has a reuniting with Cable. Reunion, I should say, with Cable. And then this is kind of like the new terrorist team, Cyclops, Magneto, and Magic. Okay, that was Kieron Gillen's run on Uncanny X-Men. There were some highs, there were some lows. Ultimately, though, I think this is a really solid collection. I think Kieron Gillen did a fantastic run. His Fear Itself story with Juggernaut was just cool, and it shook up the character of Colossus, which I thought was freaking awesome. His Mr. Sinister stories are just phenomenal. They are some of the best X-Men stories I have read. So I am going to highly recommend the Kieron Gillen 2-volume collection of his Uncanny X-Men books. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, subscribe, like, leave a comment. Ultimately, follow us on all the stuff you're going to see at the end of this video. But please, everyone, stay safe, and I will see you in the next one.